Hi everyone, I'm Kat and welcome to my channel, Naturally Beautiful Girl. If you guys are plugged into the non-toxic beauty community, you probably already know that Vapour Beauty went through a rebrand and released a whole bunch of new products, redid their packaging, just kind of refresh the brand. When they did that and I saw all the products, I was like, I need to try these out and let you guys know what I think of them. If you guys have been watching my channel for a while, I've not really talked a lot about Vapour products. And the reason being is that I just haven't been drawn to them. I haven't really been drawn to the packaging, the products themselves. The one thing I will applaud Vapour Beauty for is that they really have always done a good job of having foundation and complexion products that come in very fair shades. As you guys probably can tell by watching this video, I have extremely fair porcelain skin. I've always struggled, be it in non-toxic or conventional beauty, to find products that are fair enough for my skin. And so I always have appreciated that Vapour has had the range that goes to those fair shades. Well, I have tried a couple products from Vapour in the past. I did try a couple of their foundations. Reagan sent me some samples of foundations. We have very similar skin tones, but the problem I had was that my skin is oily and a lot of their previous foundations were really designed more for dry skin and were just not working very well on my oily skin. The rest of the products, I don't know, just never really drew me. But when they did this rebrand and they came out with some new products and they redid their packaging, I felt like now is the time to try them out. So I have tested these products out. There's one product in this video that is a first impressions. I will get into that and explain why that is. But everything else I have reviewed for quite a while now, and I want to share my thoughts with you. So I'm going to give you my thoughts, show you demos of me applying the products, and yeah, we're going to just dive right in. The first part I'm going to talk about is this one, and this is their brand new Velvet Glow Foundation, and I have the shade 090V, which is the lightest shade of the foundation. And as you can see in the demo of me applying it, it is a very, very good shade match. I was at first nervous to try this product because it has the word glow in it, and I have oily skin and I don't really need any help with the glow department. I've got that under control. Give me like an hour or two and I will be glowing on my own. When I went to the Credo, the people working there spoke very highly about this foundation. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. I just got this bottle of this foundation yesterday. And that is because I tried to purchase it, the shade 090, physically in the Credo store, but it wasn't available. They had it on display, but they didn't have it in stock. It was kind of weird. Not really sure what was going on with that. I feel like if you're launching a full line, you need to have the full line in stock in store, not just have, you know, the display available, but not the full range of shades. It was very odd. Credo was really gracious and gave me a sample of the foundation, and so I was able to try it out, and after trying it out for a few days I had to go ahead and purchase it, not just because I was filming this video, but because I really genuinely like the foundation. The first thing I thought of when I used this foundation is that it is a lot like the Kosas foundation. So actually I've got them side by side. You've got similar packaging, you've got similar amounts of product, like these are very similar. I am pretty confident that Vapour came out with this foundation to compete with Kosas. You had to shake both of them, and there's definitely pigment suspended in a very liquidy foundation. I really like the Kosas foundation, but I think I may like the Vapour a little bit better. I've been kind of going back and forth and trying them out, so I could give you my thoughts, because this is the closest thing to the Kosas foundation that I have found so far in non-toxic beauty. The Kosas foundation has fewer shades, so I actually have a better shade match in the Vapour foundation. The shade 090 is much closer to my skin tone. The Kosas, I have the shade 01, which is a little bit deeper than my skin tone, but the way the foundation works, I can get it to blend out and work. The Vapour foundation surprisingly has more coverage than the Kosas. The Kosas has like a nice amount of coverage, but it's not a full coverage foundation. The Vapour, you can really build the coverage up. I want pretty sheer today, but I have, in the process of testing this out, built up the coverage and really gotten a good amount of coverage. I like the way it applies really easily, it's not streaky, I don't get brush strokes. It dries down actually. So even though it's a Velvet Glow foundation, I find it dries a little bit more than the Kosas. And that's another reason why I like the Vapour a little bit better. Just on my oily skin, it works a little better, gets a little bit less oily throughout the day. And shockingly, the Vapour foundation has not broken apart on me at all. Yes, it will kind of fade on me as the day progresses, but it's not getting splotchy and breaking apart. I do get oily throughout the day, that still happens, but it works really well, meshes really well. At the end of the day, the foundation still looks really, really good. I do set the foundation. I always set all my foundations. I have been using the Clove and Hallow powder foundation. That's my current favorite way to set foundations. So that's what I used with this, and it works really well. It's also quite forgiving if you do have some dry patches. It's not overly clingy. I think this is really good, especially if you like the Kosas foundation. Definitely need to run check this one out. It's just it just feels really lightweight. It just looks good on your skin. And this has definitely moved into like my favorite foundations category. I am completely impressed by this. I didn't really think another foundation in this vein could come out and surpass the Kosas, but I think it has for me. I like the way you can build up the coverage. I like the shade of it a little better. I like the way that it wears a little better. It's just a really, really good foundation. Definitely worth checking out. So next I'm going to move on to their setting powder. So I picked up the pressed version of their perfecting powder. I've kind of gone on a bit of a mission recently to find setting powders, pressed setting powders. I don't really know why. It started with the Care Weiss setting powder and I didn't really like it, and I was like, there's got to be a better alternative. So when I saw that Vapour had a pressed setting powder, I wanted to check this out. So this does come in a compact. It is a translucent setting powder. It has a nice mirror and it's got this beautiful packaging. I really like this new Vapour packaging. I think it just looks super nice. I'm going to show you a demo of me applying it. Something I discovered with all the Vapour pressed powder products is that there is a lot of kick up when you use them. They're not super firmly pressed, which honestly I prefer that, but you just have to be careful when you're dipping your brush into this, because if you go in with any force, you're going to get a lot of powder coming loose, which if you're aware that that can happen, you can be careful and avoid that. But if you just kind of blindly go in, you're going to get way too much powder off. Be it with this, be it with the blush, be it with the eyeshadow. They all have that same characteristic. I do like this better than the Care Weiss setting powder. I find it to be a bit more forgiving and look better under the eyes, but I do not like it as much as the 14E setting powder. The problem I have with this setting powder is it can look a little bit drying and the concealer still creases. Looks less dry and feels less dry than the Care Weiss setting powder, but my concealer still creases. It's just not the best combination. Like if you look at my under eyes right now, I can get this whole under eye situation to look better with the 14E setting powder. And you can see like fine lines, and eventually my concealer is going to crease into these lines. If you are not a fan of loose setting powders, definitely think this one's better than the Care Weiss, but if I was given the choice between this one and the 14E, would hands down pick the 14E. So there is that. I'm continuing on my mission of trying to find the best pressed setting powders. I will eventually do a video comparing all of them and letting you know what my favorite is. Right now this one ranks higher than the Care Weiss, but that's all I have to compare it to at this point. So it's okay, just not my favorite. I would recommend the 14E setting powder over this one. The next product I'm going to be talking about is one of their pressed blushes. So they've come out with pressed blushes and a pressed bronzer. I don't have the pressed bronzer just because it kind of came out at the wrong time of year. Honestly, I'm not using bronzer right now because we moved into fall. As you can see with my sweater, we're finally in fall. So I really am not reaching for a bronzer. But I did decide to pick up their pressed blush. I have this shade here, which is the shade Mischief. And it's kind of this kind of peachy, pinky color. I have to give a lot of credit to the woman in Credo who encouraged me to go with this color. This normally wouldn't have been the color I went with, but she was like, it's really gonna liven up your cheeks. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take your recommendation. And I picked this one up and I really like it. I've got it on my cheeks right now. If I am given a choice between cream and powder blushes, I will choose cream blushes. I typically find that they're much easier to work with. I just like them better. I find they wear better on me, fade less, generally just happier with cream blushes. But I really, really, really like this powder blush. If you are looking for a powder blush, this is the formula. This is really good, and it's in a pressed format. Once again, it is a softly pressed blush, so you want to be very careful and not dig your brush into it. You will get way too much blush on your brush. What I recommend doing actually is, dipping your brush in and then tapping it off a little bit. The pigmentation of this blush is really good. It's at that perfect level where you're getting your color to show up, but it's not so much pigment that you're struggling to get it blended out. And that's something that's really hard with powder blushes. And I think that's part of the reason why I tend to prefer cream blushes. I have less of a chance of turning into a clown. But this one is just perfect. Like, I just get the blush on my cheeks, I can see it, it stays in place, it doesn't fade on me. It fades a little bit, but it fades a little bit at the beginning and then it kind of sits in its pigmentation level and stays there throughout the day. Like, at the end of the day, I can still see this blush on, which is huge. I have oily skin. Oily skin just eats blush. So this one is really good about staying. And I just find it easy to apply, easy to blend. It doesn't cling, it doesn't accentuate my pores. It just works really, really well. I keep reaching for this blush, and I could reach for cream blushes, but I'm reaching for this powder one. Also, I honestly like the size of it. I know it's a little small for most powder blushes, but it's a very manageable size to travel with. It's got a nice mirror, it's got the magnetic closure. Like, I'm a fan. There are 4 shades of the blush. Like I said, this one's Mischief. If you're curious, I would pick one up. I think they're really, really good. This is the product that actually is the first impressions today. And here's the reason why. So I initially was not gonna pick this up. I looked at the 4 eyeshadow palettes in the store in Credo. I honestly just wasn't drawn to any of them. I didn't really like any of their color stories. The colors all just looked kind of humdrum. I swatched a couple of them. I just wasn't super impressed by them. I wasn't gonna pick them up. But when I went ahead and ordered the foundation, because I had to order that online from Credo because I couldn't get it in store, I ended up picking this up. So I just got this last night, and this is the eyeshadow quad in the shade Archetype. Absolutely love the packaging. It's got a huge mirror in it, and we've got 4 shades. I would show you a demo of me applying this eyeshadow, but it took me so long to get this look, and I kept having to zigzag about what I was doing. And part of that was just because I hadn't used this palette before and I was trying to figure it out, but part of it was also the shadows. I actually ended up using all 4 of these shades today. This one I first did over my lid, then I decided I didn't like that. Then I tried to go on top of this one, which didn't work. Then I had to put more eye primer on and then go in with this one. And then I ended up using this for my inner corner highlight and brow bone highlight. This one I used in my crease. It blended really well, had a nice level of pigmentation. This one I used on my upper and lower lash line to deepen my lash line. And then, as I said, this one I ended up putting all across my whole eyelid. Here are the 4 shades swatch right here. They're all just kind of neutrally brown shades. But one thing you can tell from the swatches is they're dusty. So these 3 shades up at the top are all mattes. This down here is supposed to be a shimmery shade, but honestly it doesn't have much shimmer with it. And that's why I ended up trying to apply more eye primer and get it built up. And I managed to get it built up some on my lids, but not that much. That's my thing with the eyeshadows, is I wasn't drawn to the colors. There's nothing really original about the colors. And the formula is just not that good. Like, it works well. I was able to get a blended eye look. I wasn't struggling. Even though I did all my kind of back and forth, that was more for me not having used the palette before, but it's not as good as other palettes. Ilia just came out with 2 incredible palettes. And when I put this one side by side with those, it just doesn't compete. It doesn't hold up. The price point on the Vapour palettes versus the Ilia palettes is pretty similar. And you get 6 shades in the Ilia, whereas you only get 4 in the Vapour. If you wanted to buy a kind of small palette like this, I would say definitely go for the Ilia over the Vapour. I just think it's much better. I think you get a better value for your money. And like I said, these are fine. It's just not that good. And then with eyeshadows like the new Ilia eyeshadows, with the Aether Beauty eyeshadows, There's just so many good eyeshadows in the non-toxic beauty space. There's not really a lot of space for mediocre eyeshadows. And that's my thought. Like, these blended fine, they're powdery. So when you dip your brush into them, you're going to get a lot of kick up. You have to be really careful with that. You can actually see some powder sitting on top of this shade right here. And that is from me dipping my brush into it. I would pass on this, to be honest. My initial instinct was to pass, and after trying it, I still would say pass. I'm going to use it because it's fine, but it's just not as good as other eyeshadows. Even though it's a first impression, I do consider myself an eyeshadow connoisseur. I can tell pretty straight off. If the metallic's not that metallic and the matte shades are kind of dusty, that tells you a lot. And for me, that's enough. The final product I tried is their lipsticks. So they came out with these new lipsticks, and I love the packaging. Once again, it's just so sleek. It's got a nice magnetic closure. And there are two types of the lipsticks. There are these matte lipsticks and satin lipsticks. And I got a matte lipstick. And I didn't necessarily know I was getting a matte lipstick because I picked this up physically in the Credo store, and I will say this. The lipsticks themselves are not clearly labeled as to which ones are matte and which ones are satin. I looked online later, and it seems that on websites that are carrying the lipsticks, they say whether a lipstick is matte or satin, but like if you're physically looking in store, it's nearly impossible to tell. But I do have the matte lipstick, and I have the shade Madam. And I have to say, I was really impressed by the shade selection in their lipsticks. I love the Ilia Color Block lipsticks. We all know this, but I only have one shade, which is the shade Rosette. And the reason I only have one shade, even though I love the formula, is I honestly can't figure out another shade that I actually want. I would buy more if they came out with more shades that were a little bit more exciting, but to me they're all very similar and I'm not attracted to them. I was actually toying between this one, which is in the shade Madame, and the shade Blaze, which is a beautiful red color. If you want a true red lipstick that's matte, go check that one out. It is really, really good. It was a close call, but I went with this one just because I thought I would wear the shade more. I really like the shade. It's a nice cross between a kind of more pinky, orangey brown shade. It's not too orange, it's not too brown, it's not too pink. It's really, really good. So I can't speak to the satin formula. I purchased all these products myself. I was not sent them, so these are the ones that I was interested in trying and were in budget to try. Otherwise, I had to pass. So I'm just going to speak to the matte formula. The matte formula is very pigmented. Like, you can get a lot of pigment on your lips, and at first it's very comfortable. Like, I'm in the stage right now where I don't really feel like I have anything on my lips. It doesn't feel dry, it doesn't feel moisturized, it just feels neutral. Though I've noticed as the day wears on, my lips do start getting dry, but it takes quite a while. But it's pretty comfortable for a matte lipstick. Out of all the matte lipsticks I've tried, this is probably my favorite matte bullet lipstick formula because it is really pigmented. It also glides on easily. That's one issue I have had in the past with a lot of matte lipstick formulas, is they can actually be difficult to apply. Like, you kind of have to work at them to get them to apply, but this one applies really easily. And because it is a more matte formula, it is quite long wearing. It will transfer a bit, but the transfer is pretty minimal. I'll kiss my hand here. And like, you can see a faint outline of where that lipstick is, but it's not much, and I still have a lot of color left behind on my lips. So I think this is a good lipstick. I do normally end up reapplying it at the end of the day. If I've been eating and drinking a lot, by the time, I reach the end of the day, if I want to go out to dinner or something, I often will need to reapply it, but it holds up really well throughout most of the day. If my lips didn't feel dry several hours in, I would give this a complete stamp of approval, but because it does get a little bit dry, it's not my favorite, but I really like how it looks. I think this is definitely one of the best matte bullet lipstick formulas in non-toxic beauty. I'm curious about the satin lipsticks. I don't know if I'll pick them up, I don't know. I'm kind of glad that I coincidentally ended up with a matte lipstick, just because I think in a lot of ways that's a more interesting formula to try. But it's good. If you're interested in this, it's good. Eventually your lips will feel a bit dry, but it's a lot less drying than a lot of other matte lipsticks. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section, have you tried out any of these Vapour products? Are you planning to? My two recommendations, if I had to give two, would of course be the foundation and also the powder blush. These two are definitely my favorites that I tried, and then probably third would be the lipsticks. Especially if you've tried out the satin formula lipstick, let us know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check out my Instagram. My handle's at naturallybeautifulgirl for more content, to see me more often if you'd like to, if you missed me in between videos. And also be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of my new videos. I will see you next time. Bye!